Hello and welcome to Frozen Synapse 2 Dev Diary number 10. I'm Ian Hardingham, designer and lead programmer on Frozen Synapse 2. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about squad management at the city level and also answer some of the questions that have been left on my previous videos. So let's get into it. Now, if you want to do some squad management in Frozen Synapse 2, you click the big squads icon in the top right hand side of the screen and you get this little work in progress menu that shows you your current squads. When you start, I give the player 2 squads. Base defense squad, the idea being that these guys would stay back at your base and defend it in case you get attacked, and your strike team, who are sent out to go and do any missions that you'd like to do. Generally, you don't have to keep base defense at home, you can send them somewhere else if you like. Now, if you want to do some squad management in Frozen Synapse 2, you click the big squads icon in the top right hand side of the screen and you get this little work in progress menu that shows you your current squad. But right now we just have a very dry Merc assault rifle name. We can see their salary is $5,000. We can see their machine gunner. Now this squad also happens to include you, the player. The faction leader is an agent in this world, and if the faction leader is killed, you lose the game because you don't want to get killed. You are the person giving the orders, and you're actually a little man inside any base defense missions, and you have to run around and protect yourself, which I think is pretty funny. And your strike team starts off with just 3 assault rifles, fairly boring there. Now we'll go back to the central time view, and I will just right click on the intersection of Grindbore and Cody, say send squad here, send the strike team there, and then we're just gonna advance time a little bit and see the strike team going there. We're just going to ignore that event just to give you a vague idea of how things work. So we've sent a strike team there. Maybe that's a place that we want to set up a checkpoint or somewhere that we want tactically. Now if we go back to the squad screen, I'm going to show you how we can create a new squad. We'll call it something like squad number 3. Very creative naming there. Squad number 3 currently has no people in it, but I can take one of the assault rifles from the base defense squad and put it in the squad number 3, and there we suddenly got 3 squads. So hopefully this gives you just a vague idea that as opposed to a lot of games where you just have one squad that you would send around, there's a lot of freedom to control exactly how you want to divide your troops up around the city. Obviously, as you earn more money, you will be able to sign new and better mercenaries. I'll show you some more of that in a minute. And as a large part of Frozen Synapse 2 is controlling the city and having fast access to as much of the city as possible so you can get to the incursions before the enemy can, you have to make a really big tactical decision between having a couple of really strong squads or more weaker squads, and that's a decision up to you as the player. So there we go, we've made a new squad. I'll just show you something that I checked was working a bit earlier. We cannot move one of the members of our strike squad over to squad number 3 because they're not in the same building, so that can't happen. So we'd have to move the strike team back to base, move all these 3 agents back to base before they were able to be moved. Now if we go to the Merc market, I've hacked in and I've unlocked all of the basic mercenaries. We have quite a lot of different weapon types that we'll actually be describing in depth in a trailer that's coming up soon. And I've hacked to give you a lot of starting money, so we can sign maybe a shotgunner, sign him to go into squad number 3, and we could also sign a how about a grenade launcher? That sounds exciting. As you can see, all very work in progress. Lots of work needs to be put into these screens, but you can see that all functionality is there and working. And here we have squad number 3 now has an assault rifle, a shotgun, and a grenade launcher. So hopefully this gives you guys an impression of how much control you have to sort out the exact squads that you like. And it really is important to have enough people back at base as you do the things you want to do on the city level and you do things for other factions. You're going to annoy factions and they are going to eventually attack you, and the incursioning force may attack you as well. And that's really the main place where you can really lose the game. So it's always going to be a gamble. If something important happens that you want to get people to, you could always actually leave your base empty, but that's going to be a pretty big risk. Now, when I did my video a couple of weeks ago, I showed you how several of the competing factions might all try and attack an incursion from the incursioning force, and I got a couple of comments saying it would be cool if those attacks, even if they failed, could weaken the incursioning force. Now, that's absolutely a really important existing feature of the game. Again, it's really important for me to try and get across how much is actually simulated in the world, and how every single soldier that you come across in a mission exists as an agent on the city level. So if we click on this yellow building, which is a glaive owned by the faction Fortune's Glaive, we have this really ugly screen in the top right which shows you what is in there. And you can see it, they've got 2 grenade launchers, 2 riot shields, a smoke grenade launcher, a shotgun, and a pistol guy. Now, if they get attacked by someone, and it's a failed attack, but they wipe out a riot shield guy and a grenade launcher in the battle, that will immediately be reflected on this level, and if there hasn't been enough time for them to regenerate, to regrow those VAT forms, then it will be significantly easier to attack them later because they've lost those 2 guys. So I just wanted to explain how much of a strong link there is between what's going on at the city level and what happens in these missions, and how all that stuff ties together. Now on to your questions from the last couple of weeks, and the first one I'm going to address is from a couple of people, but most notably, and it's slightly upsettedly, is someone called Max Gear, who is complaining that everything we've shown in level so far has been on the first floor of buildings, and has been a little too similar. And yeah, I want to talk about that. I do plan on having different floors of buildings, including having basements and roofs, and on those levels you wouldn't have any access to outside. Is a couple of important aspects of just the base game at Frozen Synapse go into these decisions. Frozen Synapse is not a game where I want to allow you to access several different floors in the same mission. I think that will just overcomplicate things, and kind of goes away from the kind of gameplay that I think makes Frozen Synapse really work. So that's part of it. Also, extremely dense buildings that are sort of just rooms and corridors don't tend to make as good levels as places that have more open space. Now, generally, when we're modelling the inside of an office building in, say, a Frozen Synapse 1 level, we have a lot of open kind of foyer space. You imagine a building, but not a sort of fully populated with little rooms building. It has like a big foyer area. So we have more space to use. I think it's really important to have those different floors, because otherwise, you know, it's going to really undermine the feeling of the city map if everything is always on the first floor. So I definitely understand that. And we will have a solution for that. But yeah, certainly I'm going to be showing off some of the other levels that we have soon. And if people have more input on stuff not having enough variation, I definitely want to hear it. So thank you to Max Gear and others for that. And just to finish off by quickfire answering a few other questions, yes, we will have music from Nervous Test Pilot, the composer of the music in the original game. He is actually my business partner, the other half of the leadership of Mode 7, and he will always be making music for our games. I really appreciated everyone who was watching the last videos who was a fan of the Stormlight series by Brandon Sanderson. I was surprised by how many of you there are. Those are really, really great books. There will be a penalty for killing civilians. There are going to be three larger civilian political groups that will be annoyed with you and will start putting out contracts on you if you do that kind of thing. So there are some quick answers. Please continue asking questions. Please continue giving as much feedback as you can. Again, it's absolutely cool to get negative feedback. It's always really useful, and that's one of the ideas behind these videos. So we get to hear a lot of stuff. So as usual, thanks for hearing me witter, and I hope you will join me next week. Goodbye.